And it is true, slavery did exist in Israel, but it existed in all the world, but only in Israel did God give laws to masters on how to treat humanely their slaves.
Kind of an odd way to put it, but he's also very wrong in saying this. Other ancient Near Eastern societies had laws for slaves and for slavery. So yes, Israel did have slaves, and yes, Israel did have laws for the slaves that ended up giving the slaves some kind of rights, but that is actually par for the course for the ancient Near East. It is not like some kind of weird outlier in ancient Near Eastern culture. Tom Brown, again, is just fucking wrong.
Happy Juneteenth. This is the time we commemorate the fact that all the slaves in the southern states were free, the last being my own state of Texas, when the Union Army came to Galveston and defeated the Confederate and freed all the slaves in Texas.
Well, this is not technically true. What technically happened was that the Civil War ended and the Union Army had to be the ones to come and enforce, freeing the slaves and enforcing several other laws that were instantiated at the end of the war. And so it wasn't that the Union Army came to Texas, defeated the Confederates, and then freed all the slaves. It's just that the Union Army came to Texas to enforce the laws that the Texans really should have been following the entire time, but were choosing not to because they're dickheads. This same sentiment would continue on into the Civil Rights era in the 1950s and 60s, with states refusing to desegregate their schools and other public institutions. They would still keep them segregated because for some reason they can't fucking read the Constitution and understand that our particular version of government means that the federal government, like when they pass laws, it overrides state government laws. So yeah, this is a common thing that's happened all throughout United States history.
I had somebody write to me just yesterday saying to me that the Bible and Christianity is for slavery. And I'm thinking, what book is he reading?
The Bible. That's what book he's reading, Tom, because the Bible has various pro-slavery verses in it. And yes, I would say that the Bible is pro-slavery. Now, whether or not you want to consider God to be pro-slavery, again, deeper issue here. It's very plainly to see in the Bible that slavery is very much a positively supported thing and endorsed thing, by the way.
What kind of propaganda has he been getting? Friend, there's nothing in the Bible that is pro-slavery.
Oh, is there not? Why don't we head on over to the Bible and see what kind of bullshit proves Tom wrong? Your male and female slaves are to come from the nations around you. From them, you may buy slaves! You may also buy some of the temporary residents living among you and members of their clans born in your country, and they will become your property! You can bequeath them to your children as inherited property and can make them slaves for life! But you must not rule over your fellow Israelites ruthlessly. That's just one verse, but this verse is an important verse to bring up in any discussion concerning slavery. That's because this is a very direct call for the Israelites to purchase slaves from very specific places, namely the countries around them, and also they are not to enslave their fellow Israelites. So to say that the Bible is not pro-slavery or has no pro-slavery content in it, I think is a bit bullshit, because God directly says that you can buy slaves, which would be a pro-slavery statement. What's Tom a bishop of? Bullshit? Because that's all he's slinging here.
First of all, what's the Old Testament story about God liberating the Israelites from slavery of Pharaoh? The whole Bible is about getting free from slavery.
What Bible are you fucking reading? Because that is definitely not the Bible that I've been reading for the past, 4 fucking years. That is not what the Old Testament is about, or what the Bible in general is about. Now, it is true that some portions of the Bible has very anti-slavery bits, like, God looking to free the Israelites from Pharaoh's control or his ownership as slaves. what people don't generally tell you is that God is actually the one that forced the Israelites into selling themselves as slaves to the Egyptians, because the Israelites were actually the ones that, you know, kidnapped God's favorite little prophet and Joseph in his multicolored fucking coat and sold him to the Egyptians. And so it was kind of like retribution. It was like punishment for the Israelites. So, I mean, really, God is the one that had the Israelites get sold into slavery into the first place. So, I mean, you know, there's that. But then you have in Exodus where, you know, God is supposedly freeing the Israelites from slavery. But, I mean, God could have done that easily, right? He didn't have to do all the plagues and all that kind of shit and everything. Also, another thing that's not generally said is that God also compelled the Egyptians to allow the Israelites to steal shit from them as they were leaving. So there's that. But more to the point of how acceptable slavery is and the very anti-slavery bits of the Bible, you actually have Christian slave traders and slave owners and everything like that passing around this slave Bible that actually took all those bits out. And it contained passages that highlighted how slaves should obey their masters and all these other pro-slavery bits, like, you know, purchasing slaves from foreign countries and stuff of that nature. So you can't really sit there and tell me that there's no pro-slavery statements in the Bible or push some kind of bullshit that, you know, Christians didn't support slavery with the Bible because they specifically crafted a version of the Bible to convince people that slavery was definitely a thing God wanted. And the Old Testament story is more about God fucking up the Israelites because they're dipshits than it is about freeing them from slavery.